spend time alone, all by yourself, in the silence or in nature with the birds chirping and the wind rustling through the trees, and it's just you and your thoughts, what do you think about? What do you think about? For a lot of us, the answer to that question stems in fear, stems in worry, stems in what's to come. Where are we going? Where is my life going? Worrying about death, worrying about our jobs, worrying about our families, worrying about our children. In the last 3 years, we've been so bombarded by so many things in this world since the COVID agenda started and the rulers of the world kind of put the smack down on us and told us who's boss and locked us all down. And it's only progressed since then, and it's only going to continue to progress. And all the media ever does is bombard us with fear, constantly. Constant fear and distraction from the truth of what's really going on, as I cover so extensively on this channel. But the effects that fear has on us is so detrimental, mentally, emotionally, and even physically. You know, sometimes I think there's a lot of people that are afraid of death. And with the message I preach that ends in Revelation 24, 5, and 6, which is where this timeline ends according to Scripture, read it yourself, Revelation 24, 5, and 6. With the message I preach, I could see how it can be real scary, how it can invoke fear in what we genuinely do have to face, that there's not going to be a rapture to save us from this, and that we have to face it unto death. And people worry about death because it's a mystery, because it's unknown. And the fear of death stems from that exactly, that we don't know. We can read Scripture 1,000 times, and it can tell us exactly what's going to happen with us. And I can preach with you, or to you, all day, every day, the same message of what Scripture says. But at the end of it all, deep down, you still worry a little bit, because you're like, I don't know what it's exactly going to look like for me. But there's so many fears in this world. There's so many, you know, when you think about your alone thoughts, the things that you think about when no one else is around, start thinking about how many of those thoughts stem in fear. I don't want to lose my job. I don't want to lose my wife. I don't want to lose my children to this world. I'm afraid I won't be able to pay my mortgage next month. I can't afford my medications. Worry, 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 fear, 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 fear. And the truth is, fear all comes from the enemy. Fear all comes from Lucifer, all of it. 2 Timothy specifically says that God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a strong mind. That's what comes from God. So when we sit in fear all day, focusing on things that are detrimental to us, we are living in the realm of Lucifer. And here's what happens. The more we think on the things that we worry about and the fears that we have, the more we ponder on them, the more we focus on them, the more we worry about them, the more they come true automatically. It's just how it works. Where your mind is, everything else seems to follow. That's why God says to meditate on His Word. That's why Jesus Himself said, do not worry about tomorrow. Sufficient for today are its own troubles. It's possible through fear and through worry to drive yourself into a place physically where you're incapacitated. You know, and you start getting anxiety, because that's what fear does to you. It drives anxiety. It drives all levels of cortisol throughout your entire body, okay? And it's the most unhealthy thing. That's why it's one of Lucifer's greatest weapons, is to make you fear things. Everyday things, irrational fears even. I have an irrational fear. I am terrified of heights. I'm terrified. I don't know why. I get on the third step of a ladder, and it's the only thing in the world that makes my palms sweat, is heights. It's an irrational fear that I haven't been able to shake my entire life. And I know that's not of God, you know. I mean, it might sound silly, but man, it's debilitating sometimes. It's really debilitating. And the more I think about it, like I'm approaching a ladder, I'm like, I gotta climb 4 or 5. And then I psych myself out and I start thinking about it, and my palms start to sweat, and I start shaking, and I start getting all nervous. Irrational fears. There's real fears, you know. For example, somebody that lost their parents early in life, for example, say your parents died in like their 40s through natural things, and you've now outlived them by a few years, and you start thinking, I'm gonna die any day, I'm gonna die. And you start focusing on what your body feels and all the different things going on in your body, and the way your heart's beating and your blood pressure and all these things, and you start focusing on your anxiety, and then you try to not think about your anxiety, but all you're thinking about is your anxiety, which is building it and building it and building it and building it, and it's like this cycle that keeps going and making it worse. Meanwhile, if you get your mind off of it, off the fear that you're gonna drop dead, because you're not, you get your mind off of that and start thinking about all the great things going on around us. Yes, we have to face the truth of the age. Yes, we have to face the beast, as I preach on this channel, but we also have our day-to-day, moment-by-moment lives. And to live in fear during those is to completely waste your life, and you will not effectively serve God. And understand when I'm saying this, I am just as guilty. I don't worry about death necessarily. I don't think much about it, actually. I worry about losing important people in my life. I worry about making mistakes. I worry about saying something wrong. I worry about just stupid Travis being stupid Travis sometimes. And it locks me up. It locks me up and doesn't allow the full me to come out, to come out like it needs to. But it's a self-fulfilling prophecy when you give in to those kind of fears. I'm afraid to lose this person, so I'm going to try to say everything to make sure I don't lose them, wherein you're not being yourself. God has such exact, specific plans for each one of us. If you're listening to this, he's got a very specific plan for you. And Lucifer is going to do everything he can do to distract you from that plan through the power of fear. And we have to be steadfast with God about that, and understand when we're succumbing to fear, we're causing what we fear most to happen. Again, the more you ponder on your fears, the more you're creating them to happen. And that's how life works. That's how God's kingdom, that's the spiritual principles that run the world. So remember, God has not given us a spirit of fear. Think of what he has given us: power, love, and a strong mind. So when you start going into that tailspin of anxiety and fear, and I'm talking to myself again, just as I am you, when you start going into that tailspin of anxiety and fear, realize where it's coming from. Realize that God does not want that on you at all, and that it is a weapon to keep you away from God and to keep you away from serving the way you are called.